All right. Peace, 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 and blessings. Haki Ami, the Honorable One of Safo, Dr. Haki Shakur Ami, the Success Scholar. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're well. Definitely check me out on my YouTube, my Facebook, my Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Yeah, so I drop some good jewels on many different spaces and platforms. I wanted to really just share, some key analysis that many people may or may not know, but I've been perhaps one of the greatest students of Dr. Amos Wilson. Right now, some people may not understand that, but if and I've been feeling like that for the past few decades, and it takes some time, it takes some thoughts, it takes some experience to really truly understand and appreciate as well as project where a Dr. Amos Wilson should or would have been going. And so I am like the torch bearer on that level, and I feel the need to just share how poverty and Pan Africanism has demoralized the community and created dysfunctionality, and really truly like a level of lack of functionality, right? And what do I mean? So you have, and I've been quite an observant force, and there's certainly a delicate balance between the whole unbridled capitalist, the extreme capitalist, like cutthroat, like Machiavellian, like do anything for money, but also the realities that individuals in this world, we have to provide for ourselves. We have to eat, right? And so I have seen and witnessed, unfortunately, many Pan Africanists that have not necessarily been exposed to the world and to different people, where they are able to really be honest, right? I mean, they're honest to the scope of their level of knowledge, right? But when you haven't like really got out here and met enough people and to get where they coming from, you can only speak so definitively, right? And so this is what I've been doing over the past, several years, just expanding the network and striving to elevate the consciousness, first and foremost, of individuals who find themselves, in poverty. Now, again, and not that, I mean, it's definitely some subjectivity, because you have people who have made it in different ways, right? Made money or decent living, and who am I to judge to say what is an acceptable cash flow or acceptable earning? I mean, they give definitions of what like a livable wage is, and what is the minimum wage, livable wage, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel that, unfortunately, many, even in the Pan-Africanist spaces, who, some of them are encouraging people to go to Africa, or we just somehow are supposed to recapture some great African period in history and try to bring it up to contemporary reality and in this society and build family and community totally by itself based upon these principles. Now, granted, I do believe that some people without a level who haven't gone through these trainings, through these different types of principles, who are a little immature and wild and unstructured, they don't have a level of stability. They may need various barriers and structures, et cetera, et cetera. But individuals who, like myself, who've been for the most part pretty stable over the past like few decades. I mean, relatively speaking, meaning that I wasn't worrying about where my next meal is coming from. I mean, things can happen. I mean, you could have a fire or, like, I don't, what I'm saying? Somebody could break into your house, somebody could steal your car. I mean, many things could happen to cause you to, have like a little traumatic life experience, right? But ultimately, I feel that when individuals aren't, men and women, and, then you have a materialistic mentality, in many of, our sisters, even our brothers, but yes, certainly our sisters, where, we're being immature about earning and priorities, and producing and doing for self. Many people become, for instance, like crabs in a barrel, where we are striving to manipulate each other, manipulate public opinion, trying to influence people so that we can, like, extract resources out of each other. Like it's like it's like a, what's the term? Like, not the purge, but the Hunger Games. Like, individuals are competing, for instance, for resources, for followers, for views, for attention, right? And here's the thing with me. I've been able, not just, I mean, and I've given people an opportunity, people that I know perhaps that maybe I should not have been dealing with, but because I knew better for quite a long time than to be fooling with some of the Pan Africanists that are they aren't necessarily stable, right? And when you reach a point where you need a level of stability in your life, like, you cannot just allow for wild things to happen. You have to create a level of stability, and this is what Dr. Amos Wilson talked about. The stability threshold. See, he was a social scientist. Now, like, I've been going to forums that talk about the social determinants of health, for instance, and so I heard some of these terms, right? And and I see it in my everyday reality, because people are trying to build their movements off of, like, emptiness, right? Or like some kind of preaching to preaching messages to people that really don't need your teachings. Like, we don't need some people, like adults. I mean, particularly individuals who well versed, well deep in their understandings, or have a healthy level of understanding. Don't nobody need to be like that deep in your philosophy or teachings, but sometimes we just get too far. I mean, and we're not doing academic, and this is what I'm talking about, community. We're not doing like academic studies and teachings. Like, we're just talking to each other. And so the question becomes, how do we prioritize, what we are building upon, right? How do we look at different individuals and say, you know what, that's really impressive. See, you have a level of insecurity out here, right? A crabs in the barrel mentality, right? And this is where this is destroying many of these Pan Africanist movements, right? The jealousy and envy. And this is why, I saw it like a decade ago. I saw it years and years ago where, some of these, African-centered movements have turned into cults because people trying to do business, right? And, unfortunately, many people don't have the character. They don't have the character in leadership to move the people to another level. Not just character, but the business acumen, the work ethic, the priorities, right? And so this is why, there's delicate balance I've seen. And I was just at, an event, it was a politicalized event, and different people were there from different, African people. There's a couple black folks, a couple Europeans, and one Pan, Asian or something. And I realized that just looking at that and looking at, the people that were in the room and, in comparison, for instance, the Pan-African, logic is that they don't want to, they can't show up like at different places. They can't reinvent themselves. Like they just going to go out and want to preach to you about some far distant history. And here's the thing. History is very important. History is very important. But what I believe more tactfully is, depending upon who the messenger is. I'm sorry, not the messenger, but who you are preaching the message to, that decide the relevance of these teachings. So what am I saying? What am I saying here? Make your message plain. Make your message plain to who needs to hear it at a right time. And unfortunately, many people just want to sound deep and listen. I read a significant amount of books. I could sit and I could sit and just study the chance of. Listen. There's some people that's out here. They got all kind of conversations going on online, man. These different cultural little groups, the Moors, and now some folk are deep into talking about we ain't come from Africa, and these people actually think that somehow you gonna get reparations by saying that you are a native indigenous person, like the land belongs to you, like you're gonna go and get some land, showing up with some feathers or some paperwork, or squatting in a house talking about you from this tribe or that tribe. Please, somebody tell me where that has happened at. And so I'm not just calling out necessarily the Pan Africans, because I know that there are people who, came through different schools, different Moorish schools, different NOI and 5%ers and, Kemetic teachings and African spiritual teachings, etc., etc. But I have to make a point that if you are struggling out here in this world, you have limited, you can only take people but so far. I don't care if you've been married, for real. And that's why I'm just like, I don't see why some sisters or brothers even stay in relationships because I'm just like, you can't have somebody that have so many poor habits, failing habits, poor health habits, like not reading habits, not being healthy, not exercising, you know, just chilling, watching TV all day, just all kind of backwards things going on. So I'm now, I'm being absolute discerning. I'm using wise discernment to the degree to who and what and where I need to show up and who I need to have in my space, right? And, unfortunately, many, some of these folks are old. They old and they not going to change. They ain't going to show up nowhere. Some of these Pan Africanists, and I'm going to keep calling them out, they not going to grow like for the next 10, 15 years. They going to still be talking about what they've been talking about. And they can't help that many people. They really can't help that many people. And I'll just begin to close with this. Like, somebody told me, brother, well, you kind of about yourself. And I sent them pictures. Here's the thing. Like, I try to keep, a delicate balance on different issues and, just be tactful and wise in terms of how I use my time. But I sent them some pictures of, like what I did and where I went this Friday. I was over East Baltimore. I think it was Friday or Saturday. Friday. At the Dwight Hawkins, a young brother that, well, I don't know how young he is, but he was shot by the police, right? Shot by the police over East Baltimore. And I was just like, yo, man, I thought I was like by myself. I don't need to like show like little stuff like that, man. I do things like that like pretty regularly. I don't just be out there like every day, all day, but it made some sense. I was going and I was stopping at the bookstore over East Baltimore to pick up some soursop or something. So I was like, all right, let me fit that in. Let me go see what's going on the streets. Like, I know I might stand out a little bit. I don't look like I'm out there every day or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But, it made me think like, damn, like if I'm selfish and no, I'm the only one here out of this major incident, I'm like, damn, and if I don't show up, like, am I just missing some of these people? Am I missing the Pan Africanists? Am I missing the FBA? Like, am I missing some of these other groups that, supposed to be jegnas and protectors of the people? So, anyway, I can only use my time and intellectual abilities. I can only spend but so much, time on a lot of different things. But again, eventually somebody's gonna say, you know what, brother, you're making some good points. You deserve, to be, heard, and wherever that may be. People have heard me on different venues for years and years, so I don't really feel like I need to be validated, right? I don't feel like I need to be necessarily validated like that, but ultimately I could talk to some mature brothers and sisters, on a one-on-one basis, and I would be quite happy with that, because progress is being made on many different levels. I certainly do get, invites to different things. People, ask me to speak on different platforms and panels. And sometimes I decline because, I have a unique set of knowledge and unique set of skills that I don't want to, confuse too many people, right? I don't want to go. And then sometimes there, are people who are more well versed than myself that I'm like, I don't want to, I ain't gonna say. I mean, I'm not gonna sit on any panels where people who we should be listening to, and I'm just sitting there like I don't have nothing to add. Like these are the people who we should be listening to at this time. Just like some people never invited me to different spaces, and but they slapping each other's on the back, giving each other awards. Certainly in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, giving each other like awards. No disrespect to anybody, but I'm like, and then they're gonna call me, ask me, am I coming? Like, man, the work I'm doing. Like, you gonna give me what? Am I gonna speak? Like, am I the keynote? Like, what are you saying? What are you saying? I'm simply saying that. I mean, at my particular age, I'm not waiting for. I mean, here's the thing: I'm not pretending some so-called elder or some that they so-called have some knowledge, because I don't see them. I don't see it. I don't see some of them in the right places. So I'm not giving them no like extra. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, you ain't getting no cut cards from me, bro. Like, or sister, like you ain't gonna sit up here and confuse the success scholar like you have some secret formula, some secret knowledge that. But to y'all ignorant people who don't go nowhere, and you're not exposed to anything, and you're not able to have some detailed, articulate conversations, you just assume that people are the most brilliant thing in the world, right? So that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to share, just how poverty and Pan Africanism, has been normalized, right? And unfortunately, it causes division and dysfunctionality, and it causes insecurity, right? And I'm not gonna sit up here and accept it. Certainly for myself, I never did. I've always tried to work and think and build teams of people, and and if you have people around you, they may be family, they may be friends, and if they holding you down, they're being a weak link. If they're being incompetent, they're being dysfunctional. There's a lot of them in the black community, and all of them kind of gravitate towards themselves. The failures, they gravitating towards each other, and they're content. They're content, and nobody can tell them nothing because they're not like challenging each other. I need people to challenge me in a legitimate, authentic way to grow, to be better. Like, that's what Dr. Amos Wilson, certainly, if he was here with us today, he would have had to have evolved. He couldn't stay, and then he would start talking about health. He couldn't stay talking about health and wellness, man. I've been doing like some good exercises and, getting in the sauna and like on a real regular basis. So I'm really stepping up my exercise game. And Dr. Amos Wilson started talking about that, and even in his psychological development of the black child, awakening the natural genius of the black child. Both of those that I've read, and sold to many, sold to schools. Yes, I sold them to the Tree of Life, to some of those teachers over there. Or some of them just walked past the table and didn't even stop. And that's why I started realizing, like, all right, I ain't going to be spending my time, trying to get these Negroes to read nothing. Like, I mean, you can do, little kind, little gestures, things. But, look, the people, you maybe put it in a rap song and play some Cardi B with it, and then say Amos Wilson's name or something in there, like like because some of these folks they ain't gonna wake up. Even some of these teachers, like I mean they just are just totally colonialized. And it's just bad. It's just bad. And they aren't the example. I wouldn't want to put my child in front of none of them. So, anyway, y'all, it's getting late. A lot of good things are happening. I had a beautiful day hanging out with some good people. Progress is being made. Stay tuned to the Rise of the Success Scholar. We're making moves. If you don't know who I am, or, I mean, I don't know what rock you've been under, but progress is being made. Definitely, we're elevating to another level. Yeah, I'll be, doing some things up at, Coppin over the next few weeks, and just continue to organize wherever, the right people continue to show up. So, progress is being made. Definitely stay tuned for the Rise of the Success Scholar. Peace and blessings. Shoot. Shoot. Okay. Well, I can't. Let me move this over. Love